say you need to understand some stuff to keep it moving. And Google, well, it ain't doing the trick. Well, I'm Snakebite Cortez. This is full Media Commandos Basic Training, and you're about to get some. Layers! That's right. Everything in this life has layers. Layers is what it's all about. Building on top of something else, layers can be used to express yourself fully or to hide the truth. We could show you a lot of good shit, no doubt. However, I feel like this is a good lesson to start with. You can branch off and it will lead you down a path of self-discovery and to some other more specific questions that will help bridge the gaps to your enlightenment. But we're going to keep this lesson in the context of Photoshop because Photoshop knows the art of layers. And knowing this function translates across the board. If you work digitally in any way, understanding layers will help you tremendously. After all, most software is designed utilizing the layer aesthetic in some way. So layers is very powerful. Okay, you ready? Let's do it. I always start with a minimum of a 300 dpi file. More on that later. When you open a file, it has a background layer. That layer is the file until you do something with it. You can get rid of this layer, but only after you create a new layer. The background layer has whatever color you have assigned to it. Default is white. Then all new layers you add to the file after that defaults as being transparent, or you can paste outside information into this file, and that creates a new layer. You got to keep in mind the size of the thing you are pasting. If it's an image you got from someone else and or from the internet, that can end up being either larger or smaller than your original file, or it can even be a different ratio. You can transform the size of whatever you're pasting, but keep in mind, if it's small, making it larger will result in crappy pixels. And you don't want crappy pixels. I use the pizza dough analogy. If you have enough dough for a large pizza, you can change your mind and make it a small pizza if you like. But if you only have enough dough for a small pizza, you can't possibly change your mind and try to make a large one. Now I feel like pizza. All images as well as all layers are made up of pixels, DPI, which stands for dots per inch. You can always check your file to see how many dots per inch you have access to. The more dots, the better the quality. When I make an original file, I start with a minimum of 300 dpi because that's the best place to start if you're not sure if you're going to use your image for print or for the web. Print requires larger DPI for obvious reasons, while the internet requires small DPI for processing efficiency. Back to layers. You can keep pasting images for days into your file. Each new image will stack on top of the last one, but you can change the order as well. Layers have settings which opens up all new possibilities as to what you're stacking and how it affects what's underneath it. What's great about layers is that whatever you do to one layer doesn't affect anything else. Just make sure you're on the corresponding layer and you're all good. Process note. When working on a new project, every time you have a new idea, put it on a new layer, just in case. Layers make great insurance policies. Now there's a history window that allows you to go back in time, but trust, you don't want to depend on that. Use only emergencies. But even then, the history has a limit as to how far it can go back in time. Layers can be a great insurance policy that can have your back even when the history window doesn't. So let's take this file. I'm a big history guy, and let's write something for this cool image. When you use the text tool, it will make a new text layer. Very powerful. Some people say only do printed work through Adobe Illustrator because it's vector-based. Vector is better for print. It's clearer. It's cleaner. And for big reproductions, I agree. But for the most part, all of your printed needs could technically be made through Photoshop. And I like to keep it simple. Again, we're only using Photoshop here as a springboard to understand other applications, since layers is an echoing theme throughout. So let's write something for this image. Maybe it's a book title. The Ancient World of Your Mama. Because your mama's pretty old and has probably seen a lot of shit. I'm just kidding, I don't know your mama. I'm sure she's real nice and young and hasn't seen a lot of shit. See, it's real simple. This image I pasted in this document is on a layer, and your mama is on another layer. Now we can play with both of them to see what we end up with. And then presto, you have a cover for your mama. Let's be done with your mama and move on to something more complex. I learned Photoshop first coloring comic books in the early 90s. I'm old school that way as far as digital color and paint. It's a real fun way to learn the program. And for the book The Red Star, thanks to layers, I was able to develop a look that was really unique for those times. I was adopting what I was learning and applying in animation to this groundbreaking printed work in the year 2000. And I wanted my contributions to add a sense of theatrics. Some efforts were better than others. I experimented with layers in a way that other comic books were not doing back then. I'm not even sure if they're doing it now. But this method allowed me to push the page's elements as they were needed. Or if there was time in the schedule. Which there was never time in the schedule. I can add, take away, change color, introduce atmosphere, different lighting. It could be a paradox of the infinite choice. And you gotta be careful not to lose yourself, or you'll never finish. I mean, never. Never, ever, ever. And although I only ended up using it in this way just recently, it also opened the process up to limited yet fun animation. Not a traditional project by any means, and not a process most are willing to tackle for the printed page. Although there's a lot of new cool stuff out there, and it really excites the hell out of me. So I could be totally wrong. I work in many different fields, and I can say with confidence that I use layers for everything, from designing to manufacturing to production to illustration. I fully embrace layers and all the joys they bring. It can communicate for you even if you're sending files to countries that don't speak your language. Layers is also the place where you play and explore. I'm constantly taking old art and bringing new life back into them, all thanks to layers. And since I'm a visual arts guy, what I create in one application using layers can fully collaborate and integrate with another application. In return, these fundamentals can be applied to almost every aspect of what I do as a business. From drafting legal documents like deal memos or production estimates that I'll get into in future episodes, stay tuned, to marketing and promotional materials to building websites. Even musicians work with layers that are called channels. We'll get into that in future episodes as well. I even edited this video using layers in Final Cut Pro. You don't need to know much about layers to do some really cool shit with layers. And you don't have to be a full-time professional artist to utilize layers either. You could be a hobbyist, a small business looking to learn new aspects of what is required to keep one's expenses down, a student needing skills for projects, an employee looking to keep their job. Understanding layers is essential in this digital world and part of our digital survival kit to keep it moving. If you have any questions, please start a conversation down in the comments section. Thanks for watching. If you liked our videos and find them helpful, please subscribe and share them with your friends. Or you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr. Keep peeling back the layers, Commandos.
You're watching
Media Commandos. Yo! If you like our shit, you think other people like our shit, please share. Help us spread our shit. All thanks to layers. It really is a fully customizable tool. Like me. Snakebite Cortez.